Hey kids, this is an introductory episode of Res Etymologiae to propose the idea of the show and a few concepts necessary for understanding what's going on. Not much knowledge is presumed, but I'm not going to explain what verbs or nouns or adjectives or whatever are. If you don't know, you can always look it up. The idea of this series is to take an English word and run it through its origins, reflexes in other languages, and other instances of its historical root in English. Sometimes words do weird and wonderful things, and to someone who doesn't have a background in historical linguistics, semantic change, as in changes in meaning, or phonological change, as in changes in pronunciation, can appear random. Several words can exist in a language ostensibly derived from the same root, but mean completely different things, like, for example, birth and bird. It's hoping that tracing these relationships will be entertaining and also casually inform about historical linguistics and languages in general. So, on with the show.
Proto-indo-European is a name we give to a hypothetical language which is proposed as the ancestor of most languages in Europe and a few from the Indian subcontinent. In fact, all languages in Europe, apart from Basque, Finnish, Hungarian and Estonian, derive from Proto-Indo-European. Those from outside of Europe include the national languages of India, Afghanistan, Iraq, Nepal and Iran. It's the widest spoken and likely heaviest studied language group in the world. There are several major branches of Proto-Indo-European: Germanic, Celtic, Romance, Hellenic, Balto-Slavic, Armenian and Albanian just within Europe. The traditional way of thinking about these relations was through family trees. It's clear that Italian, Romanian, Spanish, Portuguese and French all derive from a form of Vulgar Latin, that is, a locally spoken Latin dialect closely related to the formal classical Latin written by Tacitus, Ovid and Caesar. However, it is less certain whether a single Germanic language ever existed, or indeed whether the sub-branches Eastern and Northwest Germanic mean anything other than a scale of how related the living languages are. These are the weaknesses of a family tree. Languages don't exist as complete, unified entities undergoing uniform change from one stage to the next. They are much better described as dialect groups, where some features change and others don't, some significant enough to merit describing the result as a new dialect or language, and others disappearing within time. Reconstruction, and indeed the tracing of etymologies, may seem largely futile if concepts such as Celtic purely exist incidentally on the family tree, as a way of saying that the sub-languages are closer to one another than to those of another group. Working out what Celtic looked like seems rather pointless. However, for some language families, as we have seen with Latin, evidence exists to accurately reconstruct a now dead and partially lost language. Indeed, we have several stone inscriptions for a fairly early stage in the evolution of the Celtic language family, as we do in runic inscriptions with the Proto-Germanic language, and it makes sense to say that at some point a Celtic or Germanic language, despite its evident dialectical variations, existed. This series focuses on the evolution of words through the general changes noted in larger language groups. Naturally, the further back one goes, the more speculative the conclusions. A root is the original word from which our current reflex derives. Thus, love comes through Middle English lova and Old English lovu, both of which are attested in writing. It's also pretty clear that the V sound in lovu was originally a B, and the final was probably something more like an O. Old High German, a language closely related to Old English, has luba, something close to the original reflex. Thus, we reconstruct Proto-Germanic lobo, and through comparisons with the love words in other Proto-Indo-European languages, the original root of lub, rather dodgy sounding. This runs back down from lub to Proto-Slavic ljubiti to Russian ljubit. It turns up in Latin as the slightly odd verb libet, it is pleasing, since that language uses amo as its love verb, as some of you will probably know, deriving, although the evidence is shaky, from a lost nursery word such as ama. Nursery words are collections of sounds a child might make before acquiring languages, usually directed at a parent and interpreted by them rather arrogantly as referring to themselves. Thus papa and mama turn up everywhere, as it's easy for a baby to say. Furthermore, the love word turns up meaning praise in Lithuanian and beg or ask for in Albanian. Everything is indeed connected.
So it only leaves me to say, look forward to the next video. That's going to consist of burgers, dogs, foxes, and probably also translation. So when I get around to doing that, that'll be great. But thank you for watching this introductory video. I'll put in a plug for a website that I'm developing about medieval poetry, which is medievalpoetry.wordpress.com, and that's medieval spelt with a IAE, because the other address was taken. But there we go. Okay, thanks for watching. Watch out for the next video. I am Superman.